What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Illumishade. It is so great to be able to talk with you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
It's so awesome to have you all here. So I got to tell you that this new album, Another Side of You, is absolutely epic. I was very much enjoying Ecliptic, The Wake of Shadows during a lockdown and COVID. So it's great to have sort of a sequel to this album or a continuation in much better times, if you could say. Was this intended to just be a continuation of Wake of Shadows, or is Another Side of You meant to show, no pun intended, another side of Illumishade?
I guess it's meant to. Sorry, you go ahead. You go
Oh
ahead.
no, I actually don't really know what to say, so you
Oh, okay.
do it.
I don't know. I think it's meant to show many more sides of this band. But then again, it's an album that is, it came to be an album over the last few months or maybe over the last year, but the songs that are on the album, they are, some of them were they probably were meant to be released as a single in the first place, but then because it was at a time when we didn't really know where we were going as a band, and then a lot of things happened and changed, and so what we have now is I would say it's a collection of songs that show us really growing together as a band and that we think makes sense together on this album, because I mean it's a super long album. Like, who has time for 14 songs these days, right?
Was do you feel like that the first singles that we heard so far, such as Riptide or Cloud Reader, Here We Are, Enemy, is maybe a good representation of this whole album, or is that just one little taste of what's to come?
I think choosing the singles, it was actually really difficult. But of course, it's on one side, it's of course the like what represents us, which songs do we like the best. But also there's another side of which songs just are ticking the boxes for the singles. I mean, and then it was kind of getting more clear and clear that it should be these three songs, and it doesn't mean that the other songs are like less loved by us, let's say, in that sense.
Do you feel like ending with tracks such as like a Hummingbird or a Velabelt, if I pronounce that correctly, like having the sort of ballad ending to it? Do you feel that like was there sort of like a narrative that flows through this whole album? Does this whole album sort of have like a story in a way, or does every song sort of have its own individual meaning?
I think that's one of the biggest differences from the first album now to this one. That, as Jonas said, it's more like a collection in that sense, because we just started writing music after Wake of Shadows without having a vision of actually making this full-length album. So I would say in this case, in this album, every song stands for itself, but still we managed to have this nice frame like throughout the album, and that's why also we chose to end with Verliebt. It's a song in Swiss
Thank you.
German,
Yeah.
with this piano ballad, because it's more like a bonus track, but also happens to be a very nice ending after Hummingbird as well. So things just fell into place, I would say.
Has there ever been a time, because I felt like that with Illumishade, like, going from Wake of Shadows to this, I feel like that there is sort of a lot of emotional meaning behind it. Has the music, whether it will be lyrically or musically, was a lot of personal experiences or a lot of personal emotions sort of like the fuel behind the fire of this album, or was Illumishade more of an escapism where you're not really trying to bring too much of your personal lives into it and kind of like want to portray another side of you? Then this pun is going to happen a lot.
Really changed, actually. It started being, I would say, a pretty escapist-ish thing, and this album turned things around quite a bit. So the lyrics are, I would say, they're pretty personal. Topics are as well. that the fantasy element moved aside quite a bit. So yeah, I think that's a major change now that's happening with this album.
In terms of the fantasy aspects, was there almost like a lot of looking? Was there other mediums of art that were a source of inspiration, whether it would be in literature or film or other aspects that were kind of used as creative influence?
It just helped me in the first place, and I think also many of the others from the band, having a story in mind or pictures or something. So that's why, in the first place, when we started this band, I wanted to have this story around it. I cannot say like a particular influence. I think just it could be any Disney-ish idea as well. I just had this story in mind with the Guardian and the diamond, and it just felt right at that moment for the first album to make this concept album around this story. And now we created this world, which I think took a little bit of a pause on the second album, and we will see what we will do on the third with it. I personally like many aspects that we created, but of course we will see how we will move on with this, in what way and so on, and how, in what weight as well.
Because I felt like that's what Illumishade was. It did create sort of like its own sort of universe, if you will. I could almost see Illumishade being expressed in other elements outside of just music as well.
Yeah, that's why we want at some point the adventure world, Illumi world, right, Johnson?
Illumi world. You gotta coin that. You gotta trademark that title.
Yeah, then again, I mean, if you want to do that, you need the budget for it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, are you talking about the adventure part?
Both.
Or yeah.
Both, actually. If you want to have like the whole world thing surrounding a project, you need a lot of money to do that in any way. And I think that was also like, it was a lesson to be learned. I mean, we set out to do kind of that in a way in the beginning.
Well, when it came to the formation of the band and writing this music together, was it better to sort of always be in the company of each other when writing this music, or is it better if you're kind of like alone in your own worlds and sort of like being in your own isolated environments to think of ideas?
For the first album, I think it was mostly Jonas and me. Either I came up with an idea and sent it to him, or he created something and I recorded something on top. Every song started a little bit different, and now with this second album, I think many more influences from the other bands also came into the music. Like, for example, Cyclone was the vision of Miriam. She started this whole idea of this song, and this soundscapes and so on. But every song is different. I personally really don't like to start a song from scratch with somebody. I want to do it myself, or then put something on top of an idea that already exists, but also by myself, and then come together again, or send it to each other. I don't like this group writing too much.
Yeah. I feel like because there is so many different elements in Illumishade too, it is better if you're kind of all starting off by yourself. So this way it could get overwhelming if you're all together trying to bring all these different elements together, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do it the same way. If I have an idea, usually I envision everything, like every instrument, so I really need to be alone. Just everyone just leave me alone and let me work, and then if I have everything down, then I can let it go and show it to, most of the times, first Fabi and then or the group. But yeah, I think if you're inspired, then you need time by yourself and just put it down before it leaves your system again, and then it's too late.
Yeah. Well, I always say that inspiration does tend to strike at the most inconvenient times, right?
Oh yeah, true. It's really true.
Yep. When it comes to like, and this is sort of like a debate I like to have with artists. I kind of like both of your answers on this, but when it comes to getting that inspiration and that creative energy, can you really look for that in a way, or does it just have to strike you?
For me now, especially for the second album, it's I forced myself going to the piano when I felt overwhelmed or felt any kind of emotion, like in a strong way. Sometimes I force myself to go to the piano and just use it as some kind of catharsis, which actually turned out to be quite productive because somehow usually something interesting came out. And I like going to the piano in the very morning when after just waking up, I think, the most creative, because I think the whole world is still silent. It can be at 6 in the morning or something, and I feel like nobody is disturbing me in that way. And once the day gets started, my brain is already overwhelmed with other stuff happening. Then I have a really hard time to just take myself out and just concentrate on writing music. So I really prefer doing that in the morning or as a catharsis if I feel any emotion that I feel like I want to get it out.
And for you, Jonas?
I mean, if I'm being honest, it's a luxury to just wait for inspiration to strike, because it's our job. And when you're writing for more than one band, and these bands are depending on being able to tour, then you just need to develop your tools to at least get semi-inspired.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel that once you start, what I really suck badly at finishing ideas that I started. When along the way when I was actually inspired, and then I just left them there, and then I need to reopen those sessions and work them and finish them to make them full songs. I hate that, but you have to also, you experience that once you spend I don't know, a while with those songs or those half finished songs, that maybe you can get back to that place of that feeling of being inspired, and then things start rolling again. But I usually, when I need inspiration, like as quick as possible, I usually go for a run. For some reason, that just helps me.
Yeah. Well,
then I come back, and then I sit down and I start doing things.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that it's a luxury to wait for inspiration. I had a conversation with a tattoo artist one time, and she said that if she only tattooed when she was inspired, she would be homeless. And
exactly.
And a lot of people would say that having to sort of be on that constant grind can kill the inspiration, but I kind of disagree. I think always being on that grind means you're always good. Obviously you can't burn yourself out, and you don't want to pace yourself, but like I think when you are just waiting around for the inspiration to strike, what is so inspiring about waiting around? Like I feel like you can't just let it strike. I think you have to almost kind of grab it for you. I think you have to strike the inspiration as much as it's supposed to strike you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes also, okay, I just sit on the piano, see what comes out. I'm not inspired yet, but then maybe if I'm lucky, after 10 minutes, something comes out. Yeah. So sometimes you just gotta start it as well, and then you get into the mood actually. So yeah.
When it comes to but when you do work on a song for a long period of time, because I feel like a lot of you mentioned like your songs are like this is a very long, expansive album, and that some of your songs variant song, like when you're working on something for a long period of time, is it sort of make it a little bit more difficult to maintain that inspiration in a way? Do you kind of like to feel the same way when you finish a song as you do when you start it?
Mm.
Really depends, because some songs they were just written in like a, you know, like that. And some we, as a band, like here we are, we went through, I don't know, 50 versions of that arrangement. And at some point, I remember we were all just in one room lying on the floor and just, I don't know, I just wanted to, I don't know,
Mm.
get the fuck out, and someone else was just falling asleep, and then I think Fabi came for the rescue with like 10,000 modulations that kind of got the song home. Sometimes it's just a pain in the like it's excruciating, but and then other times you just, you know, you go for it. There it is, half an hour, it's done, or let's say an hour, but you never know.
If you can get a song as expansive and as epic as an Illumishade song done in a half hour, you must teach me your ways, because that sounds impossible.
Okay, I mean, I'm not talking about something like World's End or Cyclone, but I remember for the what was this, Crystal Silence, I wrote in probably an hour. Okay, not lyrics and not like Fabi added the vocal line, but everything else was, it was just because for some reason I remember even where I sat there, it was just boom. But you can't really force that, of course.
And being that you've all played with, you know, many different bands, of course, with Elevate being in the background as well, and has that also maybe taught you a lot of new tricks and new ideas on how you could songwrite lyrically for Illumishade?
Lyrically, we both are not involved in Elvati writing lyrics. This is always coming from Kriegel.
Okay.
So we both didn't get any experience with that. But yeah, lyrics writing, I mean, if I'm super honest, it's absolutely the least favorite part that I have on writing music or songs. So yeah, I always teamed up now with the first album with this more fantasy aspect with two other people outside the band, and now Yannick, our bass player, definitely brought all this modern aspects to the lyrics together. So it's really cool to team up with him.
I did not know that, because when I listened to the work that you did with Elevate, I thought that was your lyrics. And was Illumishade your first time really trying that? You've never really done that before?
Yeah, I never really wrote lyrics before, no.
Wow.
And even very, very shitty ones. Yeah, I mean, maybe for like a pop song that I had to do at school, you know, but very badly. I always hated writing lyrics. World's End is the only song I wrote all the lyrics myself.
Okay.
Everything. I never was too much into words. I don't know why so many singers write lyrics, to be honest, because for me it's a completely different thing, singing and writing lyrics.
Well, when I started doing interviews, one of the craziest surprises or lessons is when I remember interviewing a singer for the first time, and he said oh, I don't write the lyrics, and that really shocked me. I know it was amateur to think that just because they were singing it that automatically means that they wrote it. Little did I know that Elton John doesn't write his lyrics either.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
So that's really fascinating. Do you maybe now, because you are though involved with the lyric writing, that maybe you connect with these words in a different way than before?
Yes and no. Yes, of course, it's nice in a way when you're involved in the whole process. For example, Rise. I had the idea what it should be about, or Golden Lands on the first album, and I I was working together with this other person and more explaining what it is about, but then this person found the right words for it, kind of. So in the end, I was also involved, like emotionally, what it should be about. Then I can already connect differently. But I think that's also the master of singing, or if I can say that like that, that for example, in Helveti, I give the voice to the vision of Kriegel, and I love doing that because I then it's more than just words. It's with a voice. It's with emotions, and I love going into this Celtic world. Whoever wrote the lyrics, I don't care. I just love going into this emotion that this person was feeling whenever it wrote, and I just sing it. And I think that's one of the best parts. So for me, if I'm very honest, I don't really care too much who wrote the lyrics. Not at all. I just want to sing it.
It's always the bands with the best lyrics that have that sort of point of view. When I interviewed Max Cavalera, I love Sepultura and Soulfly's lyrics, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I don't really like writing lyrics that much." I'm like, it's the ones who have like the best lyrics are usually the ones who dislike it, and then where like if the songs are just very very literal and like very basic. Oh, I love writing the lyrics. I love packing it in. It really gives me this, and like this, it's like repeating the same 4 words over and over.
Well, yeah. We are lucky that we can team up with cool people. And of course, I still give my few cents to it, of course, and so on. Because, for example, with Rise, I remember I was jamming around, and I usually jam around on the piano with no meaning. I just say words or sing words, random words, and then I knew I want Rise there. And then we built the whole topic of the whole song around Rise. And I think Rise was just meant to be there. It was just an intuition, and this made the song also
added the
really
sushi and the
exactly. Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
And finally, the final question I wanted to ask you is because you all have multiple talents with multiple forms of instrumentation. You've all played with different projects. Depending on how you express yourself musically, whether it would be via piano, lyrically, instrumentally, does it express a different side of yourself depending on what you're playing or who you're playing it with, or in the end it is just a form of self-expression altogether? Regardless, it's the same thing.
I'm not sure if I have more than one talent.
Well, because you're so involved in the composition, I feel, and so
course.
It's one thing to be able to play, but it's another thing to write as well. And I think that the writing and arrangements is also something that's really extraordinary. Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, as a writer, Illumishade is especially satisfying because it's just complete freedom to let your own creativity take its course and bounce off of other creative people's ideas that work well together. And as a guitar player, I think it is a very different thing to play completely your own music with Illumishade or to play in tribute bands. It's just equally as much fun, but definitely it is a different thing. It's also different how people react. Of course, I mean, I mean, if you're playing someone else's music or if you have a part in someone else's vision, it's just a different thing than just having your own thing out there.
Would you like to add?
Yeah, I totally agree. Somehow with the music aspect, I also feel different with lyrics. I don't really care for some reasons. I don't know why. But with music, definitely, or just knowing that you're part of the whole thing from the beginning, or you have the power, or you can shape it, you can color it the way you want it, definitely makes a difference to me as well now when we play with Illumishade and you see in the best case, people smile or people enjoying and so on, and then it's like, wow, I'm part of this since the beginning, and I'm part of this melody now that is, just the whole thing that is on stage. We're part of this since the beginning, and that definitely makes a difference feeling wise, I would say. Yeah.
Because I feel so much expression and so much energy when I listen to this album, and like I said, it's an adventure. It's definitely an experience. I think it goes through many different emotions and goes through many different spaces and time and all together. And yeah, so we're very excited to have you here. Is there just anything else aside from the U.S. tour that you'd like to promote?
Well, yeah, our new album. We have a beautiful vinyl. I mean, it's our first Illumi vinyl ever. We never released the first album yet with vinyl, so we're super happy to see the artwork in this big size. It's wonderful. So, yeah, and we will go to another European tour as well, and we're just ready for this year, I would say.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Illumishade. Be sure to pick up their brand new album, Another Side of You. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Bye, thank you.
Yeah.